believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that back there is not real.
To me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All I gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else sees the leprechaun? Say yeah!
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. My gosh.
Before the Tic Tac type UFO was flying at such speed there that it barely was able to stay on their radar. They didn't get a chance to shoot it down yet.
It's all shifty lawyer talk. I mean, this is like lawyers have scripted this shit. It's just so shifty how the words they use, the language and all this sort of stuff. It's so calculated, and it's war propaganda.
Hey everyone, welcome to the premiere episode of The Theorists. I'm Tim Wilms.
And howdy everyone, I'm Andy Nolch, and it's great to be here. I'm a little bit concerned though, because last time I went on a show with Tim, I heard that Marge masturbated. So I don't know what's going to happen this time, but I feel a bit weird, and I hope it's all right. But I'm willing to agree to do this show.
Coming straight out with the conspiracy theories, theory accusations, and I guess we should put out a legal disclaimer that this show is called The Theorists because these are just our theories. For a lot of what we say, we're not claiming we have proof. We're just asking questions, just hypothesizing. That's the name of the show.
Exactly. It's because the news doesn't give us the truth about it. They're just telling us, propaganda pretty much. So we've got to explain things so we don't get tricked by the propaganda.
And welcome to everyone in the live chat. We already have a number of subscribers to the Theorists YouTube channel. We're going to see how long we last, but we're not going to censor ourselves, are we?
Nah. Oh, we'll sort of.
Censor how? You're not known for, you couldn't even censor your spray can.
Yeah, no, but I'm going to be choosing my words carefully because I know how strict YouTube is, but I want to see how far we can go with talking about things. Maybe we have to use codes or something. But maybe the first thing we could talk about is the statements that RFK said, because they're very interesting. I haven't heard that before, that suggestion about COVID and it being designed to be race specific. I haven't heard that. Have you heard that before, Tim?
I heard it on the weekend, him saying that, but it's actually not a new hypothesis. I mean, I read Sherry Markson's book, What Really Happened in Wuhan, and she's Jewish herself, and she has a chapter talking about how gain of function research can bioengineer a pathogen to target certain races. But
no, hold on a second. No. I've heard that you can do that, but I didn't hear that is what happened with the whole COVID situation. That they and I haven't seen the information that RFK has seen, but he's a pretty smart guy, and I've read his book about Fauci, and it goes on and on and on, and it lays down the hardcore truth about all this stuff about Big Pharma and AIDS and all this stuff and Fauci's history. He's a smart guy, and he's right a lot of the time, and I just respect his opinion, and I think it's really interesting, and I wonder about COVID.
Well, let's play it and see what all of the outrage is about, because apparently this was an exclusive to the New York Post, this footage, which is a Murdoch tabloid rag.
And we need to talk about bioweapons. I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years, and the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted that or not. But there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all of those labs in the Ukraine are about. They're collecting Russian DNA, they're collecting Chinese DNA, so that we can target people by race.
Tim, before you go into anything, Tim, he says there at the end about this whole biolab thing in Ukraine. That's just a really interesting thing that sort of gets ignored, because that's one of the reasons potentially why Russia did their special operation, because apparently there was biolabs, American biolabs.
Well, Victoria Nuland, the US Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, she admitted it in a Senate committee. Now, I did hear a pro Ukraine war advocate say no, she wasn't talking about real gain of function biolabs. She was just talking about it like pathology labs, where they do blood tests and that, like we have here, Melbourne pathology, not real like bio labs like Wuhan.
Yep. Sorry, I just got distracted by the comments. The comment section's going a bit wild now.
Oh well, immediate engagement. That's what we're after.
Yeah, I haven't joined the chat, so I can't comment at the moment because I haven't logged in. Long story. But yeah, this thing that RFK said is interesting. I'm looking forward to finding out more about it being race specific. That's just very interesting,
Well, he put out a statement afterwards, and he said that the New York Post story is mistaken. I never ever suggested COVID-19 virus was targeted to spare Jews. I pointed out during an off-record conversation that the US and other governments are developing ethnically targeted bioweapons, and that a 2021 study of the COVID-19 virus showed that it appears to disproportionately affect certain races, since the Furridge Cleveland docking site is most compatible with blacks and Caucasians, and at least compatible with ethnic Chinese, Finns, and Ashkenazi Jews. In that sense, it serves as a kind of proof of concept for ethnically targeted bioweapons. I do not believe and never implied that the ethnic effect was deliberately engineered. And links to the study on the official US National Institute of Health website. So the reason why I mentioned that Sherry Markson wrote about it in a book, because this is common knowledge about how that viruses can be weaponized like this. But because RFK said it and said that Ashkenazi Jews are it doesn't affect them very much, then he's anti-Semitic.
Yeah, look, they're looking for anything to pick on him, like if he's got a dirty fingernail or whatever. They're going to be running like what they've been doing with Trump, a long-term program to bully him and stop him from getting votes. I don't think they're going to let him win. Speaking of theories, that's what this show's about. I don't think they're going to let him win no matter how many votes he gets. Absolutely not. He's more of a rebel than Trump. If anything, he's making Trump look like a controlled opposition, which Trump is a little bit, to be honest. But I still like the guy. But RFK is knocking him out of the water. Like, he's really, what is it? Knocking him out of the park, or whatever the baseball's saying. He's just totally, absolutely exposing the corrupt system. I love what he said in this thing, and also his statement is just like a sort of damage control thing. I disagree with what he put on Twitter. I think he's trying to cover up. I know exactly what he was implying. I completely understood his statement.
And also, speaking of RFK Jr. knocking things out of the water, he's also been talking about how the chemicals in the water, endocrine disruptors, particularly astrazine, could explain why there's so many more gay and transgender people these days. He said it on Joe Rogan's show. And wasn't there's somebody else who talked about how chemicals can is creating more gay people and can turn amphibians gay?
Yeah. I thought you had a clip. Do you have a clip? I thought you were going to play the clip of Alex Jones.
Oh, do you want me to?
We need a producer.
I can get that. I can get that clip.
A producer's not busy with their hands at the moment. We need a producer that can look up videos on the internet. But anyway, we should talk about, like, obviously chemicals can do these sorts of things, because I've investigated a lot into the effect of fluoride on the thyroid gland, which is, I think, somewhere here in the neck. And the thyroid gland does a lot of important stuff. It's a really important thing. It's like your heart. It's super important. And if you put chemicals in the water which stuff up the thyroid gland, it changes the sort of hormones that you have and stuff, and it can produce homosexuals and transsexuals and stuff. And it creates a baby that isn't fully correctly formed. And so I know that's fact. I don't just particularly know what RFK is actually talking about, whatever chemical, but I know this about the fluoride and the affecting the thyroid gland.
I've got the clip here.
Yeah, so I totally believe it, and I believe Alex Jones. So yeah, you can play the clip now.
There's atrazine throughout our water supply. If you, in a lab, put atrazine in a tank full of frogs, it will feminize every frog in there.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
And 10% of the male frogs will turn into fully viable females, able to produce viable eggs. If it's doing that to frogs, there's a lot of other evidence that it's doing it to human beings as well.
Yeah, I imagine Alex Jones would have loved it when RFK came out and said that. Yeah, that would be really cool.
I saw this cartoon online that when RFK says putting estrogen in the water with frogs feminizes them. Oh, you're sweet. And Alex Jones says it. Hello, human resources. Have you seen how buff RFK Jr. is? He's 69.
Yeah, I've heard this. Yeah, he looks after his health. He's into like hallucinogenics and ayahuasca and stuff. He's a pretty cool guy. I just came back from Ukraine, by the way, Tim. So we should probably talk about that, because I sent you some photos that you could put up on the show.
Yeah, Senator Slayer said, did Andy slay any European hotties on his holiday? Because she went to Ukraine, and wow, it certainly looks like the place has been blown to smithereens, and people are down in bunkers. I mean, just look at
that's Ukrainians in church, by the way, which I think is really interesting, because I visited a lot of European places and the churches are empty because it's just not in fashion anymore. But in Ukraine, they actually go to church, and it's amazing. Yeah.
They're only allowed to go to the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, aren't they? They're not allowed to go to the Russian Orthodox Church.
Yeah. I visited the Russian Orthodox Church, and I saw all the police out the front, and I just walked past them because I didn't want to ask if I could go in there, because then they might say no. So I just walked past and I just got away with it. But they were like barricading the church, and then I heard a few weeks later, I think when I'd arrived back in Australia, I'd heard that the Ukrainians did like invade that church and kick the people out of it, because Zelensky is very tolerant of other religions.
Oh, well, he's just intolerant of anything Russian. and so are the what is it, the Baltic states like Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. Did you go up to them?
No.
Because they like want to have like registers of Russians. They want to have like a certain they want to have a certain list of all the Russians. Maybe put like a star on the list of Russians in their country. They full hate them.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And it's weird as well. Like the people in Finland don't like them, yet they kind of are Russian. Like they used to be part of the Russian Empire. Like it's a real grey area as to what nation they are, and the same as the Ukrainians. It's a grey area as to what nation they are. But the one thing I noticed was that the populace there in Ukraine are brainwashed by the government to hate Russia, and they're being used, I believe, by the West to fight Russia and create this civil war amongst the Slavic people. And it's about the West and the New World Order stopping Putin from expanding because he's banning GMOs and he's using a jab which didn't have, you know what I mean? So
Sputnik
it
back.
didn't have those effects, and Russia was also selling this jab to other countries that didn't have the effects. So it's a big problem for the New World Order. Putin is a real rebel, and so that's what I noticed that they are like we're brainwashed in our own way here in Australia. The Ukrainians are brainwashed in their own way. And it's very much the government's very much pumping nationalism, and they're pumping them up, and they've got pop songs on the TV station, and the pop songs have to have pro-Ukrainian propaganda in the pop songs and all that stuff. And it kind of ruined my opinion of nationalism, because I saw nationalism in a bad way being used in a shifty way by the New World Order. So the New World Order's banned nationalism in Australia, but they've allowed it in Ukraine, and they've allowed it in Ukraine for a reason. And once they've gotten rid of Putin, they will ban nationalism in Ukraine. So if any Ukrainians are listening, you're being used. And the next thing I noticed most about Ukraine was that the people were happy. It was booming, really, especially in Western Ukraine. And stuff wasn't blown up, and it was very nice, and it was modern, and it wasn't shitty and poor, and wasn't third world. So it just wasn't what the stereotypes of Ukraine was. And so that's why it was amazing, and I took those photos.
Because the images and videos that get pumped into the Western media, it's like you would think, and it's always the same when there's a civil war going on, whether it be in Syria or some African country. You're led to believe that just all the buildings are just being blown up and that there's going to be nothing left soon. But everything like apart from what's blown up, the rest of society is functioning as normal. I mean, the garbage is still being collected. People are still going to restaurants.
It's exactly. And in that photo I posted, you could see the girl that was jumping off the bridge doing bungee jumping, and people were at the beach. And that's the big river that runs through Kiev, and it's got a nice hill there. I didn't realize how nice Kiev was. This is in Western Ukraine. That was in a different location. That was more a small European city. But Kiev is quite impressive. And sort of forgot what I was going to say. So when they have these wars, they choose an area where the war is going to be, and it seems that it's like near Crimea and in Western and Donbass part of Ukraine, and then other areas they don't touch. And from what it seemed like with what Russia was doing is that there was sometimes there was once a day there was like a bombing alert, but nobody did anything about it because the odds of getting hit were so slim. But Russia, I imagine, would be bombing some sort of military post, not civilians, some military post, possibly in the Kiev area. And they would do it at like 2:30 in the morning when people weren't out walking their dog and stuff like that, in case something bad did happen and some people died. So I believe that the Russians are trying to limit the amount of civilians that they're killing, and they're trying to keep the war in that Donbass area, so that, you know, that's where the battle is going to be. And that's where, speaking of theories, Zelensky possibly blew up the dam, which I wasn't there when that happened, sadly, but that would have been interesting to be there while the dam got blown up. But it seems like Zelensky did that. And so that area is just like a write-off. And that's where the battles is.
When Zelensky kills Russians and does industrial sabotage, that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they also, and I heard the mainstream media say something like, well, Zelensky wouldn't do that because he cares about the Ukrainians, because Ukrainians would be affected by making a massive flood. But that's not true at all. If he really cared about Ukrainians, he would have signed a peace deal ages ago. He's willing to risk all these young men and their lives in the war, because I spoke to 2 people who had someone who died in the war, and I could see that there was regular church services going on at funerals. So the young men are dying there in Ukraine, but that's a bonus, I guess, because it means that there's a lot of single Ukrainian women. So if anyone's interested, the women is good there. I don't think they're the best in the world. I'm more of a Swedish sort of Switzerland guy, but they're definitely some of the best women in the world. And there are a lot of single ones there, and they're also not sluts as well. This is not. I don't know who came up with this rumor that Ukrainian girls are sluts. That's not true. They're quite traditional and sensible. But anyway, if any guy is interested, you could just go over there, and I'm sure you'd meet some girls. Because I remember my first day there, like the receptionist at like the hostel I was staying at another hostel, and then in the room I was at, like there's good looking girls there.
If you're into Swedish or Swiss women, their women's football teams are in town for the FIFA Women's World Cup this week.
Yeah, I couldn't care less, and I think the media will try and make.
I'm just saying that if there are those women in town, if you're interested.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, they're going to be pumping up that event and stuff.
Did you go to any other European countries?
Yeah, I went to like Italy, Switzerland, Albania, Greece. There's a lot of Muslim influence actually in the Balkans part of Europe, which I was surprised about.
Yeah, Albania's Muslim.
Yeah, and parts of Bosnia and I think Montenegro and stuff like that. It's quite interesting. I didn't realize how ethnic Europe was. But I was going to say that we should get on to this Sound of Freedom movie, because I just finished watching it, and it's a pretty good movie.
I haven't watched it, so I guess I'm I guess I'm obeying the mainstream media for now, is saying don't watch this true story because it will turn more people to QAnon.
So is that what the mainstream media is saying about this movie?
Yes, that it's going to create more it's going to create more QAnon followers, and there'll be more dads who want to be heroes and rescue children.
Well, speaking of theories again, QAnon is a controlled opposition run by the CIA, and it's designed to capture rebellious people like us who think outside the box. So like when the media is saying don't watch this thingo, it's like in high school when they say don't smoke cigarettes, and it encourages the rebellious high school kids to smoke cigarettes and get sucked into it. So yeah, I mean, if yeah, it's kind of funny, but the movie's a good movie. I think it's well executed, because sometimes, a lot of the time, they make movies they're just done in a shit way, like the person's not a good artist. So it's just a nice, simple, good story. And it's about, what is it about? Sex trafficking, and the hero guy goes in and rescues the girl that was being used. And what's interesting is that there's a recent report that's about it that I think Tim might play on this show. I think it's a good report. But
I couldn't play the video. It was unplayable. It's on Alex Jones's website. It wouldn't play back on my web browsers.
That's interesting, isn't it? Like it's intentionally not working on.
Well, that's why they banned him from YouTube. He was the original one banned.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty sure it's called Reese. It's a Reese report. I don't know if you remember. I think it's that, but because there's two of them. I think there's another guy that does reports and.
Well, what's the report about? Since we can't
Well,
play it.
anyway, so the report is about it's about this. I got to get into the drug thing, and we can go on to Gobbo about this. But the thing about the drug trade is it's actually run by like ASIO and the CIA. They actually run it, and they make a lot of money from it. Right? That's the real truth behind it. And when you got the local cops, yes, they do lock up some guys, but a lot of them are in on the whole scam and making money off it. With the sex trade, that's the same thing that seems to be going on. And the report is basically saying that. It's basically saying, look, this movie is talking about an organization. I think it's like a non-governmental organization that's going out and trying to stop sex trafficking, and it makes them look good, right? But the truth is that they're sort of actually continuing the sex trade, and they're running it and secretly making money off it. And yeah, they do sometimes lock up people, and they do that to get good publicity, and they also do it to take out their competition. The same as the drug dealing stuff. When they lock up someone, it's because that person's a rebel and they're trying to keep the price of their product high, and they're getting rid of their competition. So that's basically it's forwarding this conspiracy theory, and it connects it to the Clintons. And the Clintons are CIA politicians, basically.
Oh, yeah, this is, I think, it's talked about in Roger Stone's book, The Clintons' War on Women.
Yeah, well, the Clintons are basically CIA agents, pretty much. So they're in on the drug trade, and they were heavily back in the 80s. They were importing the cocaine into America. And they also, the conspiracy is, which I don't know about, but the conspiracy is that they're in on the sex trade as well, the Clintons. And so they're a part of the CIA and this NGO group and stuff, and they're actually about running the sex trade, and that the CIA runs the sex trade internationally and stuff. And when you see prime ministers that are creeps that keep on kissing little girls like Biden, it makes you wonder if they are putting it as presidents and leaders these weirdo pedos and giving them sex and stuff like that to control them. And they put the pedos in as the leaders because then they have the blackmail on them. And it's a whole operation, and it goes real deep. But when you see Biden, though, and the amount of times he kisses little girls, and he's just, it makes you really wonder about Biden. And I would say Biden clearly is a CIA agent as well, along with President Obama as well.
Oh, so they're all useful idiots at the very least. But yeah, what you just described, that's how Epstein and Maxwell's sex trafficking operation worked. And it's again something Alex Jones has talked about. Like they get these politicians by having these secret parties where they rape these young people and also drink the blood, and then they've got blackmail for life.
Exactly. If you got that footage, and obviously you're going to do what you're told if you're Biden, and they also probably just pay them really well and stuff like that. But you need to have that extra thing to make sure that you know that they'll never turn on you, because you could absolutely destroy them. So as a part of the world domination game, the CIA has to go around into numerous countries, including their own, and control the politicians that way in order to protect their empire and the agenda of their empire. Anyway, it's quite interesting. But I recommend seeing this movie, Sound of Freedom. And I don't believe in much of the QAnon stuff. But I think they're taking a truth about this CIA operations and this dodgy stuff, and they're blowing it up and making it ridiculous. And I think that, remember how they had that Pizzagate thing? I think QAnon all started with that, and it was like the Pizzagate thing worked. It's like they took a conspiracy, they blew it up and made it ridiculous. And then they
I remember there was that guy who went to Comet Ping Pong and like shot the outside.
I don't know, but it's like they take that idea and then they blow it up and they turn it into like a religion because this QAnon thing's a religion.
Yeah, it is. It's suckered most people in, and it is a cult because it's like, oh, you don't need to worry about supporting Trump. He's got a plan. Trust the plan, man.
Exactly, and then they got a lot of them to go into the Capitol that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so, what else do we want to talk about tonight, Tim?
Well, they don't want us to see The Sound of Freedom, but they definitely want us to see the new Barbie movie because, well, apparently they've got the hottest woman on the planet to play Barbie, Margot Robbie. I think she's very attractive. We got to see all of her in the Wolf of Wall Street. What do you reckon about Margot Robbie? Is she the perfect woman to play Barbie?
From the advertising photos I've seen, I don't think so. I don't think she was a bad choice, but I think that maybe they could have found someone better. But maybe she was the best they could find. But she, I think she's really done up. Like she's really dolled up massively. So it's so like when she's dolled up, she looks amazing. Like I think the Once in a Time in Hollywood movie and that one you just mentioned, Wolf of Wall Street, she can look really amazing at certain times. But you know, there's just a lot of Photoshop and plastic surgery and makeup going on.
Well, Barbie is made of plastic, as the Barbie song goes. But apparently, the conservative e-girls on Twitter, they went absolutely crazy when there were a lot of men saying that they thought Margot Robbie was only mid. And it seems to be it's because they've been whipped up at like, well, they seem to have been like triggered, broken by, do you know Pearl Davis?
No,
Oh, well, she's a YouTuber. She's gained a lot of traction because she doesn't believe that women should vote. She's part of Repeal the 19th. And so she was, well, defending men's rights to say that Margot Robbie is mid. So she said, I thought Margot Robbie was beautiful, but men disagree with me. And that she's gotten this response from attractive and unattractive men for whatever reason they don't find her that attractive, and all of these conservative women were all going after these men for saying Margot Robbie's mid, saying they're ugly incels. And she said, it's funny because I've heard tweet, I don't find Leonardo DiCaprio attractive. I don't understand the hype. I wouldn't be shamed as a female incel. Now, let's name and shame these women. It's gotten so ridiculous now. So Sydney Watson reckons that if you find Margot Robbie a mid, you're homosexual. So does Ali Beth Stuckey. This was also retweeted
no,
by.
but here's the problem with it, Tim. Though, is that like it depends on which Margot Robbie you're talking about. You're talking about the one where she's made to look amazing, or where she's just looking average.
Oh, well, women have their good and bad days, but yeah, Ali Beth Stuckey says that there's the line between the red pill movement and homosexuality is so thin these days. Like, just admit you're simply not attracted to women and grossed out by them. So if you think Margot Robbie's a mid, you're all homos.
I just think you have to look at it in different situations. Like I actually looking at her, maybe I'm a homo. Actually looking at her, I just know she's so dolled up, and you could there are plenty of photos of her where she just looks like that. She looks pretty normal. So it's like she's not like one of these most beautiful girls ever. But there are some old Hollywood actresses and stuff. There's one Italian one I'm thinking of that it's pretty amazing. There's Goldie Hawn when she was at her peak, I think maybe early 80s, and they just look incredible. Like she doesn't look like that. But yeah, we have to pick certain moments, you know. But if you go overall good looking on average, I don't think she does that well. You know,
What
like
about
someone like Britney Spears when she was in her 20s would have been much better.
the lady on the plane who, in our thumbnail for tonight, she's in a bikini? That's not actually her in a bikini. That's a AI image about what someone thinks she looks like in a bikini. If you don't know who the lady on a plane is, she was on an American Airlines flight at Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas, and she decided that she needed to leave the plane.
Say whatever you want. I'm telling you, I'm getting the fuck off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the fuck off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two fucks, but I am telling you right now, that motherfucker back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can fucking die with them or not. I'm not going to.
Now, this reminded me of, I've watched so many sci-fi horror movies. She reminds me of that she's the only person that can see the demon or reptilian or alien for who they really are, and tries to warn everyone else, but nobody believes her. It was exactly like in those movies.
But what about, did other people on the plane say they saw the same thing?
No, they didn't. So yeah, she was the only one who raised the alarm. Now we did hear from this reptilian, alien, demon, whoever he was. He gave his side of the story.
All right, so the internet has heard the story of the woman on the plane with the reptilians. But thanks to her delaying the flight, I just got home, so now it's my opportunity to tell my side of the story as the guy in the hoodie. So we're attempting to fly out of Dallas, Fort Worth, and then basically this woman, she sits next to me and she's clearly been drinking. I'm minding my own business, and sure enough, she sees my hoodie that has this Freemason logo on it. And on top of that, she noticed my ring, so she started to ask questions. Nothing dramatic, just asked me, do I know what these symbols mean? Why am I wearing it? What's the purpose? Yada, yada, yada. And long story short, I basically just say, hey, I'm a Freemason. I even briefly explained how I educate about Freemasonry here on TikTok. Next thing I know, she basically starts to grill me about low-level Freemason and that it's all Satanism and that it's ruled by reptilians and blah, blah, blah. So I simply put my hood up and I started to ignore her and basically just mind my own business. She starts getting louder and louder, and then basically she's like, you know that they worship Lucifer at the top, right? So I looked at her dead in her eyes and I said, I am Lucifer. I heard one individual laugh behind me, so I figured somebody got a kick out of it at least. She starts running up and down the aisles, freaking out, saying I'm a reptilian, and then all this other stuff, she's gonna get off the plane, yada, yada, yada. It doesn't show all the footage, it just says that she's trying to get off the plane because of, you know, I'm not gonna say it here on TikTok, I don't wanna get banned, but then also talking about how, like, I'm secretly also trying to take over the world. So I looked back at the guy that was basically chuckling before, and I winked at him. So I basically whispered something under my breath saying that, Freemasons don't care to rule the world, we rule the universe. And I looked back at the guy that was laughing before and just kind of winked at him because he started laughing again. Well, I didn't think that she could hear me, but evidently she did, and it actually escalated it even further, and then they delayed the flight, and so on and so forth. So moral of the story, don't believe everything you hear on the internet. And Freemasons don't care to rule the world when we rule the universe.
That's so funny, Tim. I'm so happy I saw that. I should have seen that earlier. Yeah. So I mean, some people I don't know, I guess she's connecting the dots. Like she's hearing the stuff that he's saying, and then maybe she looked in his eyes and saw some weird color and just her imagination.
Half his face is already reptile scales.
Yeah, exactly. And because sometimes you can do that. Like I remember years ago, my sister said to me something like, she said, "Oh, that guy looks like a turtle." And then I looked at his face and I was like, "Oh yeah, he looks like a turtle." And then I started looking at other people, and you could see that their heads look like turtles. Like even us now, if you look at us now, you could picture us as being turtles. It's like when your imagination gets in there, it can modify what you're seeing. And maybe she's had something like that happen. But that was interesting hearing that guy talk about his spiritual stuff, because I know about stuff like that.
And he admits that, yeah, I'm a Freemason. We control the universe. We don't know how he spoke to her. He might have been when talking to her. We don't know because we didn't see the exchange. But yeah, she looked genuinely freaked out that this this guy was a danger to her on the plane. She doesn't look drunk at all. She looks genuinely scared. She's like running up in a panic.
I think it's pretty silly. I think it's a typical silly thing to have gone viral on the internet. I don't think that guy is a reptilian, but I do believe in the reptilian theory. Absolutely, that they are the aliens who actually run planet Earth pretty much. And on that whole topic, there's other aliens here as well, but they're not really the ones that are in control. They're sort of the reptilians are the big boss ones. And it's quite possible that they're running an intelligence operation to control our leaders and stuff like that. And so our leaders kind of are reptilian, if you know what I mean, because they're under mind control influence and stuff like that. Because they're aliens with advanced technology, and they can possibly occupy other people's minds and bodies and stuff.
Now, nobody's been able to track this woman down. Maybe she wasn't real. Maybe it was all a psyop by her. But there has been...
Sorry, can I say something on this, Tim? To be honest, though, I reckon that only went viral because she's good looking, because she's hot.
Well, yes, obviously a scared, pretty white girl. I mean, obviously, it gets a lot of eyeballs because particularly a lot of men don't like to see a woman like that distressed. But where is she now? Well, there is a posted to social media is a woman who is a friend of a friend who explain where she's gone.
This tea is fucking hot. You ready for me to spill it? I think you are. Come, take a seat. I've got an update on the plane lady. The one and only plane lady, a friend of a friend, is friends with her. Here's what we know. Number one, she's alive. She did not disappear. She was going on a cruise, which would explain the disappearance. And can you imagine going on vacation and then coming back to reality and realizing that you are a trending audio on all of social media? Fucking wild. Second of all, she was not drunk, not drinking, not drunk, which I have to be honest, I thought when I first initially saw the video, and I just want to clear that up because I know that there were a lot of people bashing her. Number three, the guy sitting next to her, that motherfucker is not real. I don't know what all happened. Part of the conversation, however, I do know something was misplaced. She looked at him and he looked back at her and said, I am going to take this whole plane down. That's what I know. This is what I know. And I hope, one, I'm glad that she's alive and safe. Two, I hope that when she feels comfortable and safe, if she ever does, that she publicly makes a video and gives us all of the details. Okay, that's the tea. I love you.
Okay. I just like this. I just like him talking about Freemasonry and stuff like that because I know about these sorts of things, and yeah, it's just interesting the stuff he's saying, the ideas, and that a lot of people don't understand them because you got to get into them. You got to do years and years of studying and looking up words and a lot of that. But yeah, anyway.
Well, on another topic that we're both fascinated in, UFOs. There was a UFO that washed up on it's a location north of Perth in Western Australia. North of Duran Bay in Green Head. Well, it's not exactly a UFO, it's a UBO, unidentified beached object.
In breaking news, the military is tonight reviewing video of a large mystery object that's washed onto shore at Green Head on the state's mid-west coast. These pictures were sent in by a 7 News viewer after locals alerted police. Water police are trying to confirm if it's part of a plane or something else and have told 7 News officers are liaising with maritime and Defence Force partners.
What is it? Doesn't look like part of a plane. It's not a bird.
It's interesting. I don't know what it is. I mean, if any, speaking of theories for this show, huh? I mean, if anything, I would say it's bullshit. It's them making something out of it potentially to make us think it's UFOs or something. Like, I don't trust it. Anyway, if I'm going to believe something, it's that they're up to something, basically, the mainstream media. Because the way they wrote the reports, it wasn't like, oh, there was just a strange beach object, which is how I would write it. A strange object on the beach. They were like, an unidentified object. And it was like they were trying to make us think about aliens when we were reading the article or watching the news. And I think that's a bit interesting. It's a bit strange.
Well, the military was called in and cordoned off the area because they don't know whether it was dangerous or toxic, but it's been declared safe.
Exactly. This overreaction is strange with this event. It's a strange overreaction. And I feel it ties in with all the stuff we've been seeing in the past 5 years about UFO disclosure. They're giving us stuff about UFO disclosure, whereas they didn't do that in the past. They've changed their agenda.
Linda Hunter says it's the Titanic Titan submersible. Maybe. Dawn Browning said, that's where my washing machine drum went. I knew I shouldn't have dumped it on the freeway. Yeah, maybe it just could be some junk that is like, you know, the messages in bottles, like they sometimes end up like other parts of the world in the other Indian other side of can go from the Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean. Maybe it's something like that.
Who knows? What else we got to talk about, Tim?
Well, there has been a update. A astrophysicist believes that it's some space junk that never actually got into space, because if it was actually went into space, it would have like burnt up on re-entry. There is also another theory that it looks very similar to this type of rocket fuel tank on an Indian PSLV-C launcher. Well, it makes sense that there'd be some Indian junk in the Indian Ocean.
Look, I just don't trust the government. I know that the government have CCTV footage, recordings, probably temperature, sound, everything of every surface of the fucking planet. Okay? So if the government want to find out what this object is, where it came from, or if they want to find out where MH370, that plane that went missing, they have the ability to do that. But they don't release it and they don't tell us. So it's just when you were thinking about this and the military coming in and looking at this object, it's like, you guys have the technology. You guys have radar. You know everything. You've got records, everything, what's going on the planet. From satellites and outer space, you can read what's written on people's wallets. Yet, you know, it's just bullshit.
Now I know another topic you wanted to talk about because we live in the most corrupt state in Australia. You and Senator Slayer, you were hunted down and imprisoned for your victimless crimes, but the top cops in the Lawyer X scandal, former Chief Commissioner Simon Overland, Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius, aka Chief Wiggum, aka Fat Bastard, and former Police Commissioner Graham Ashton, they will all get off scot-free because we should say Dan Andrews, Director of Public Prosecutions, so her name is, I always can't remember her name, Kerry Judd, has said, oh, I'm not going to prosecute because I don't think anyone can remember anything anymore.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. The current people in power, like the whole Labor lefties and all that sort of stuff, they're in bed with the police. And so they're not going to get the police into trouble and they protect them. And yeah, it's silly. This relates to the Sound of Freedom thing I was saying about the whole the drug trade and all that sort of stuff, because Nicola Gobbo was a part of that. And she was representing people who were, as a lawyer, she was representing people who were in the drug trade. And I believe that she was actually placed there and into the police to corrupt them and get them assisting with the drug trade, basically. So like ASIO, CIA, drug trade sort of stuff.
None of
And
that's
then
come out in the lawyer. They've had a Lawyer X Royal Commission, and then they've had an Office of the Special Investigator, and then like nothing. That's it.
yeah, I mean, the whole thing's been, I don't know, been whitewashed pretty much. But Gobbo's from like a top sort of mafia / government family, because the government and mafia are heavily connected.
Well, Sir
And
James Gobbo, her father, was a former governor of Victoria.
yeah,
Like
and
they,
he was a top judge. He was a top judge, and so to me, he's an ASIO judge. He's a CIA judge, and he was also a part of the Knights of Malta, which is sort of like a secret society thing, and they have connections with the Vatican and CIA. And basically, because they're top citizens that are trusted, they can import things without getting inspected. So of course,
okay.
they're using
Yeah, you should stop there, Andy.
Well, anyway, I'll just say this is a theorist, but basically, because they're trusted being part of this secret society of upstanding citizens, and they probably do some good things as well, but they then can bring things across the border without getting inspected. Basically, it's some sort of network. Anyway, so I believe that Gobbo is a fascinating woman. I would love to know, like, I would love to see a real biography of her whole life. But she's been doing ASIO ops since she was like 17 years old.
You think everything's done by ASIO? I mean,
ASIO do a lot of stuff, and anyway, so basically, when we see this outrageous behaviour by Victoria Police, that is because it's
Victoria
infiltrated.
Police has their own intelligence.
Exactly, and
It's unrelated to ASIO.
it's infiltrated by ASIO, and Gobbo is one of those people that are infiltrating it and corrupting it. And
I
for
mean,
whatever reason,
Victoria is a rogue state. I mean, even though we're part of the Commonwealth, all of the judiciary, police, they've all been appointed by Dan Andrews or Labor people. And as we saw during the COVID lockdowns, the premiers can do whatever they want in the state.
yeah. Well, anyway, what the thing with Victoria Police is that, you know, we bag out Victoria Police so much and the corrupt justice system, but we don't look at who is really corrupting these organizations, right? And I believe that Gobbo is one of those people that's in there corrupting it. And then she, for whatever reason, I don't know why, decided to expose it. And she knew all along that she wouldn't get into trouble. She only decided to expose it and whistleblow because she knew she wouldn't get in trouble for the illegal activity that she did while she was
it was the police that signed off on it, because they said they wanted to save lives, stop the gangland war. That was their excuse.
Yeah, well, she was assisting the police, but at the same time, she was also assisting the mafia. Wig CIA. That's what the mafia is. The CIA
is ASIO CIA.
ASIO CIA pose as the mafia when they're doing operations like what they did with the Kennedy assassination in '63. That was CIA, but when you look into it, you see mafia, and you don't realize that the CIA run the mafia. Anyway, so basically, she knew that she was going to get protected, and so she's not getting into trouble for her illegal activities and her encouraging.
No one's getting into trouble.
Yeah, and she was encouraging Victoria Police to be corrupted. She was encouraging them to go and do these things. And I wish that somebody within Victoria Police, they're not going to do it because they'll get a bullet in their head, let's be honest. But somebody within Victoria Police who knows about these connections comes out and says, Gobbo, we know who you're really working for. We know what's really going on. And basically, I don't know. Gobbo would be interesting to talk to if she could tell the truth. You know,
we've got a question in the chat. We're probably going to start opening up for super chats next show. So question from Dia Beltran. Question for Andy. How come you and me have never tried it? You and Dia live quite close to each other, don't you?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
No, I don't know. And who
What?
said that we never tried it? And what is he
Well,
referring to?
Dia has said.
Has said what?
Has said that, yeah, she's asked you, how come you
Oh,
and her
sorry, it came from her. Sorry, I was a bit out of it. Um, uh, Whatever. Yeah.
wasn't she the first person to interview you after your heinous crime?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of Dia. Uh, so we'll leave it at that.
Oh,
Pretty-
don't want to talk about it.
No, but just like I mean, I just I don't fully agree with the things that she says. She's not my cup of tea, you know. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, but
Senator,
about this corrupt thing. Well, you got more stuff here, but about this corruption thing with Dan Andrews, like he is basically the cops politician, and they've installed him. Well, not the cops, but ASIO, but they're his guy, and it's possible. I think. Speaking of theories, I think that years ago when he ran over, or his wife ran over, I think it was probably him, but ran over that person on a motorbike or motorcycle or whatever. I think they protected him, and that's why ever since then
it
he's had
looks
to.
so sus how protocol wasn't followed, and they were allowed to drive the car away with its like windshield smashed.
Yeah,
Like
because what if he was drunk and hit that person? And
we don't
since
know.
then,
There was no breathalyzer.
well, yeah, but he could have been drunk. You know what I mean? And so that's why they this is like the pedophile thing. They've got the blackmail on him, basically, and so they can just control him from there on out. And he's happy to look after the police and protect them. And it's kind of like where he's in bed with the labor unions or whatever, like in the construction union. Dan Andrews is he's just ridiculous. Dan Andrews, he's so corrupt. He's like a character in the movie, and now he's cancelled the Commonwealth Games, which is just stupid.
Oh
Because
well,
he,
shouldn't have bid for them in the first place.
exactly, he shouldn't have done it in the first place. But maybe there's just so many people fleeing Victoria that he had to cancel it because there's not enough workers here to work on the Commonwealth Games, and also they can't afford it. But they always have cost
You know
blowups.
who was the CEO of the Commonwealth Games organizing committee? It was Jerome Weimar, who was Dan's COVID commander.
Sorry, I just got distracted by one of these comments about the breath test stuff. The police breath test you when there hasn't even been an accident. They look for any excuse to breath test you. You know what I mean? But there's no breath testing.
No,
Like it's so sus. And then we had that whole stunt of him falling down the stairs, and it was kept so quiet and it was kept out of the media.
he fell down 2 stairs, like it was just 2 stairs.
Yeah,
In a
exactly. There was all this shifty stuff around him. But anyway, we've got to wrap this up, Tim. What else?
Yeah. So, do you want to? Senator Slayer had a question because Dan Andrews has now got free tampons in public bathrooms. I'm not sure. Is it only in the women's toilets, or is he going to be like the the Democrats in the US who put it in the men's bathroom as well? Andy, do you think extra large tampons should be free?
I think that some people might appreciate that, and I think that yeah,
Well, they're not free.
I think they should be to help the people in the chats. There was a girl in the chats just before, and she would appreciate the extra large tampons.
Well, Victoria is broke, as which is part of the reason Dan's cancelled the Commonwealth Games. So maybe it all adds up, including the free tampons. But yeah, we only aim to go for around about an hour on the theorists because it's getting late. But I hope you enjoyed the premiere show. I thought we did well. We let things flow.
Yeah, and quickly, I just want to say about this thing about people fleeing Victoria. So like I don't think it's necessarily the money that is cancelling the Commonwealth Games. I think it's possible that there's so many big government projects going on, they can't find the workers because the government's already sucked up all the workers from the economy, and a lot of people are actually leaving Victoria. And they've also increased the taxes on rental properties and all this stuff. And people are leaving here and going to Queensland because of the rental tax problems and the electricity, gas hikes and all this stuff. So Dan Andrews is just the Commonwealth, us not being able to hold the Commonwealth Games is a symptom of how much Dan Andrews and his policies have stuffed up our state.
Well, welcome back to to the Hotel Victoria, Andy. At least you didn't get carted off to prison this time when you came back from overseas.
Mm.
All right. Good night, everyone. We will be back at 9 p.m. next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday. I guess that'll be the sign off from the theorists.
See you later. And I can do this while. Is this illegal yet? Is doing that illegal?
I think no. You can do a salute, like that's what they do in the army, and that. You've just got to make sure.
It's pushing it though. What if you go like no? Because you got it. As long as you touch your face or something, then you can do it. But if you start low and then go up, that one's illegal. That one's illegal.
Still legal.
Is it illegal doing it on a YouTube vid? Tim, can you do it on a YouTube vid?
You can do it on a YouTube, but YouTube might not allow it.
Yeah. So people will report it. But we'll do this.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Can either believe it or they cannot believe it.